Connie Willis, the podcast. Taking you into new ways of thinking, even providing answers to questions you've often pondered. Connie Willis, the podcast. This is a Connie Willis exclusive. What you're about to hear has never been heard anywhere else. This is Connie Willis, the podcast.
Connie Willis, the podcast. Connie Willis here. Join me in my other shows, Blue Rock Talk, Connie After Dark, and then some, at least more information and email list at conniewillis.com. Thanks so much for supporting the show here at Connie Willis, the podcast. Make sure you also hit in your settings auto downloads. You could be listening to this on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, wherever, but go to your settings and hit auto downloads. And if you'd like to be a part of some of the live shows and the live chats, join me over here at Spreaker. That's just another one of the directories at Spreaker.com, and look up Connie Willis, the podcast. And then you'll be notified for the live shows where you can be a part of the live chat and be right there involved in asking questions right along with me. Those of you that are not there during that, you'll get it eventually, but it won't be live and with the live chat. So thanks again for supporting me. And remember to go to your settings and hit auto downloads. That way you don't miss anything, because I've got a lot more coming your way. I'm not going to be following the norm when it comes to these. We're going to be developing along the way to see what you like or don't like. Remember, this is still new and it's been wonderful. Informant, private military, government contractor, U.S. Navy Special Warfare veteran Rob Treat, been talking with us for quite a while, getting ready for a surgery, giving his confessions, whistleblower, giving us some secrets along the way, and now bringing in Philip Kinsella, one of my friends there across the pond on the other side. He's got the brother that looks just like him. Tell Ronnie we said hello, and we love his work. What incredible artistic ability he has. So Rob Treat, you can find him at robtreat.com, talk with him. And with Philip, you can go to the KinsellaTwins.com. All right, take it away, you guys, our last segment together.
Yeah, Robert, what I was going to ask you is that it is an honor to speak to you. I'm very grateful for this opportunity through Connie. And, and I just need to ask you, isn't it strange how when you've had an abduction, and the only one I recall is the one in 1989, the winter of 1989, I had some interaction as a child, but I only recall snippets of it. But when I had the initial abduction, I then found that my consciousness, or parts of the awareness, started to expand, going into more of the psychic phenomena, interest in life after death, and all this type of thing. So, do you believe yourself, Rob, that such interactions by them, is this to do with trauma or some kind of where the person is brought into the field frequency of, say, the grays or whichever, that it seems to alter the vibrational frequency or the signaling of the human brain or the biosphere of the body? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, I think it does change. It definitely does change you.
Yeah.
Whether it's a change, it might be a change in your DNA. It just might be an awakening to the fact that we're not alone. It's almost like, when you've been like walking down a crowded street, and your head's down and you're lost in thought, and you suddenly stop and look around. You're like, oh wow, look at all these people.
Yeah.
It's like an awakening moment, and you're never the same after.
That's right.
Being in contact with them, whether it's for good or for bad.
Yeah. It's like the astronauts that go out into space. When they come back, they've changed. There is significant changes within their DNA. This has been proven, isn't it, that they are changed when they've been out in space and they come back again. This has been registered, so I agree with you on that level. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I call it the total perspective vortex. It's like it's like when when your mind finally wakes up to the potential of the universe, and that same potential is in you, and that same potential is in the person next to you, and you start to see people differently, and you start to see that the way this world is constructed and operates is rather ludicrous.
Yeah, and
And
I think people like you and me and many others see that, and I think it's frustrating because you're trying to deal with it on a daily basis of getting yourself through the day and through life because you can see the corruption, can't you? You can see the corruption and all the lies, disinformation, and the programming of consciousness. Rob, I need to ask you another question with regards to your thoughts. I mean, do you think there's going to be some kind of faked UFO invasion? I get this asked all the time. I don't know.
yeah, there's definitely going to be a fake alien invasion. And I heard it directly. And the words that they used was staged alien invasion. And it's my belief, through these conversations, these interactions, that they know that the aliens are coming back, and they're desperate to pull off their hoax before the real ones return. And
Right.
this is why we see all of our movies and television shows are about hostile aliens coming, because they're gonna try and beat them. We're gonna go to war with them. So they're gonna stage an alien invasion as kind of like a preface. So when the real ones arrive shortly thereafter, we'll engage them in warfare.
Good Lord, that is, there's no end to the Cabal's plans, is there really? I mean, it's just terrible that they want to cull humanity, they want to control everything, and at the end result, my understanding is that, where will they be at the end beyond all of this physicality? I wonder if they've taken that into consideration at all,
Well, they can't win. There's no way that there's no amount of human power that's going to beat, the aliens. But they view it kind of, like a feudal system, like conquer the neighboring king's castle, and now you own his kingdom too. And that's very much the ideology that we still have as people, conquering each other. And the way that the Greys and the other alien races feel is very different. It's more about progression and us taking our place. But we're never going to be able to take our place. We're not going to be allowed to take our place as long as we're still a hostile species and think that the way we do. Like I was saying.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was saying to Connie, their civilization is very different. Like, they're not wearing designer clothes. They don't pursue things like leather couches and fine homes and owning land. There's no concept of ownership.
Yes, absolutely. And do you think that perhaps that we are all from the same source, extraterrestrial, human? I mean, the way I see it is that I've always thought, well, the human experiment, I see it as an experiment, obviously has gone disastrously wrong. We have to have a sense of humor because a lot of our species is not good, and people don't want the fairy tale version. They want, the truth. And the truth is we're not a nice species. So something somewhere's gone wrong, isn't it? And I think that perhaps that, through the interaction of these extraterrestrials that we call them, or interdimensionals, is reminding us of the way that life should be. Is that the way you see it?
This is a Connie Willis exclusive on Connie Willis, the podcast. Learn more about Connie, her guests, and join her private membership shows, Blue Rock Talk and Connie After Dark, at ConnieWillis.com.
We're back on Connie Willis, the podcast. Philip Kinsella from the Kinsella Twins at KinsellaTwins.com or thekinsellatwins.com, and also Robert Treat at RobTreat.com. We are back with the answer that Rob was going to come back and talk about the differences.
So yes, you'd ask me if there was like a master creator race, and
yes,
there's a race that created all the early species in our known universe, what we know as the universe. And then some of those created species went on to create species of their own. And it's my understanding that the creation of humans is what triggered the war between the races, the civil war that led to the fall, and that led to the casting down, that led to a lot of the damage done in our solar system, to Mars, to Earth.
Yeah. I
And
think it's really incredible, when you think about it, Rob, with regards to your ideas. And, I agree that you should write a book, about all of this, because I think a lot of people would be very interested in what you have to say. And certainly with the information that you have also. It's just incredible that you've come this far. And, you're going to go through this surgery, and that's going to be kind of scary for you. And we're all going to be, hanging out for you. But, when you come back, I mean, you got to write that book, right?
I'll have plenty of time in the hospital to write it.
You better be sure you write that book. I mean, it's and I always think and feel that, again, the way that we've, conditioned and contained this subject matter of the cryptids and ufology, and it all seems quite messy, and trying to draw the connection links to one to the other. I think that eventually that we will find that it's all part of the same thing to some degree.
Yeah. And the message that I wanted to really get out and to tell people what was relayed to me over and over again. And when you had your experience, you probably know that they don't really speak to you verbally. They put like a glyph or a symbol in your head, and then you see a picture, and then like you have an understanding. It's not even really like talking. Their language is very nonverbal.
Yeah, I mean, there was one scene of a big tree when I was asked to exit the craft, and I floated down with two other greys by me, and that has always troubled me. I never, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
So they communicate to us, through symbolism, through allegory, and we can't understand that. But one of the big impressions that I got repeatedly was that we need to just stop. We just need to stop what we're doing.
Yeah,
and we're here that life is an experience, and in experience comes evolution, and through that evolution we will eventually solve our problems and be able to take our place with ease and grace.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But we've got to stop with the individualism thing. The thing that everything is one, and
Yes.
everything that we do doesn't affect just us. That our behavior, our antics here on Earth as a species affects all the other species on the planet. It affects the planet as a whole, and it affects other species and other planets throughout the paraverse. Right? It's like we're throwing stones in the water, right, and creating ripples throughout the universe, throughout all of existence, and not present existence, because everything is one. What we do today affects the past, it affects the future, it affects the present, it affects us, it affects them, it affects everything.
Yeah.
So until we can learn how to be in harmony with ourselves, with each other, then we fall into harmony with the rest of the universe. Then things change, knowledge comes, and all the problems that we suffer from will just disappear like they never existed.
And that's how the Cabal know that when we, the human species, start to raise ourselves consciously, they come along and they slam us back down again to create more chaos, to subjugate consciousness, to bring us down. And that was very much majorly felt by myself, around about 3 years ago, so every time we try and lift ourselves up, and I believe in that, with consciousness, with the way that you think and you feel as an individual, and as, connecting other people into that fray, the Cabal know, don't they? They know, and they seem to be able to attack also, I think.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why they want us separated from nature, why they encourage us and create for us artificial environments, right? It's like the way you feel when you're walking down, say, the streets of London is very different than the way you feel when you're walking through the foothills of Scotland.
Yes.
And where people say, hey, get grounded, take your shoes off, put your feet on the ground, go put your feet on the ground. And you do feel better. You do feel better. Rob, I wanted to ask you something of Philip here. He is a twin. He and Ronnie have been taken. You talk about DNA. Do you think there's something to the twin thing and why they might think that's more important? Can you talk to that in any way?
Yeah, they're very interested in our DNA. And as I've said, previously, our DNA is it's basically like computer code, which decides how our body's created, how we're going to conduct our lives, how we're going to be. But it also accumulates and stores information that they can retrieve. And I don't know about twins specifically, but yes, I could definitely see that twins would definitely be an area of interest. Like how the DNA of two individuals in twins, how that information is transferred between those two individuals. Like we've heard if one twin gets hurt, the other one feels it. And they don't procreate like we do. Like we're still a species that procreates in a natural way, which is something that they don't.
Right. That's interesting, actually, because we had an abduction 7 years apart from one another, and I'm 7 minutes older than my twin. I don't know if they measure years by minutes or how they do it. But,
you were taken together too, though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
So the way that I see it is that it's really strange because we're identical twins. And I've never considered myself special because we're all special. We're all connected. We're all linked on some level. But I've always wondered, and normally the number 7, it does, figure. So I think it'd Phil, going back to your patterns and, like the way that, these boxes and how they come in, it's very strange, isn't it? It's incredible.
Yeah, there's something to the number 7. I don't know what it is. But we see that, coming up a lot through history and through civilizations. Even like the swoosh symbol that you see on so many NASA patches.
Yes.
The number 7. If you don't see the number 7, you see the symbol of the Pleiades, which is 7 stars. And I think that's all part of what's encoded, because our DNA contains all the information of all ages through all time. We write it off as junk code. Or code in the DNA that doesn't really do anything. And that's not true. All your DNA does something.
Tell Philip about your DNA, what they found out about you.
My DNA, I've had it tested in 3 different labs, and it comes back with almost identical results. It appears as if I have one parent. It's 96.5% pure from a very small region in Scotland. Oh. And the other 4.5% is unknown.
Wow, that's interesting. Good Lord, you hear about these hybridization programs, and star children and all that type of thing. That's very interesting. Yeah, I don't know what they make of mine. I have no idea, Rob.
You're still trying to figure that out.
I'm still trying to figure me out. I can't work myself out, let alone the DNA. I can assure you of that. But one of the things I do find endearing is that it's great to have a sense of humor with regards to it, because the reality of it, Rob, is quite raw and sometimes very difficult for us to understand. But certainly with your interaction and your knowledge and what you've been through, it has been what they would say an intellectual treat to see how you grapple with these affairs, sir. So in terms of where you're going, where do you see yourself going? I mean, you're going to get past that point, but how are you going to lead the rest of your life?
I really don't know. I've spent really most of the past year preparing for my death. My doctors really gave me till the end of, they said I probably wouldn't make it to New Year's Eve. So I never really made any plans past this point. So I don't know what my future holds. On the subject of twins, one final thought is I think that twinning is an aspect that's only seen in the founding race, and for it to be occurring in another race, I think is very fascinating, and that's probably why they're interested in you guys, because I think twinning only happens to the forerunners, the founding race, the master race.
Good
and
Lord.
The twinning may hold the key to what the source code of our DNA is.
I see, yes, because the 9th of April 2016 was the last time that we'd seen the UFOs at close range. They were magnificent. And they've been tracked from the Isles of Scilly. Another researcher that we knew has since passed over, but he filled me in with a lot of information. And I had a feeling when they were above us that they weren't malevolent. I didn't feel any evil coming from them. It was just weird how they were there, and then they did a strange configuration, and then they moved off very quickly. They were massive, in a triangular formation, 3 massive spherical white lights. When we were coming back from a village of Copal from some police friends from an early birthday meal, but it was 11:15 p.m. at night, and I astounded by it, Rob, completely, totally shocked. And the levels of high strangeness was quite evident because there was no one around. You couldn't hear anything. It was like it just snowed, and it's just incredible how the phenomena presents itself to the individual. I think that's something that I've been looking into for God knows how long, and and it's amazing, isn't it? How they can come in and go out. It's like the X-Files. You've got nothing left.
You're listening to Connie Willis, the podcast. We're wrapping it up only because I know that Philip's got some other plans for the day to go do. I think it's more or less sleeping because he's out in the UK. Robert Treat and Philip Kinsella together here. Rob, do you have any last words before wrapping it up?
Oh, I could probably talk to Philip for hours. It was wonderful meeting you and a great conversation. Truly a pleasure, and it's always nice to interact with a fellow Brit.
And that's Philip Kinsella. Philip, anything that you'd like to say or ask before taking off?
Well, first of all, I have to thank you, Connie, for inviting me on. And secondly, I have to say a big thank you to Rob for taking the time out to speak to me. Wonderful guy. I really pray that you get through this, because it's something that is very serious, and you'll have our prayers sent to you, Rob, for you to get through this. And it's been a true pleasure to talk to you, sir. And I'm going to check you out. It'll have to be tomorrow now, but I'll check you out and see if I can connect with you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was a pleasure meeting, too. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Robert Treat at robtreat.com, Philip Kinsella at the KinsellaTwins.com. We've got more here, obviously, to come with Connie Willis, the podcast. Thanks for supporting the shows. More to come.
Informant. What you just heard has never been heard anywhere else. This is Connie Willis, the podcast. Informant. Learn more about Connie, her guests, and be sure to join her private membership shows, Blue Rock Talk and Connie After Dark, at ConnieWillis.com. Whistleblower.